Greetings, this is Dr. Vance, and in this video I'll be talking about outlining the particular prompt Mirror for Man and essentially looking at how to take annotations and turn them into a coherent outline. So where did we get the information for this possible outline? Well, it comes from all these annotations that we took from the previous video, and when we went through Mirror for Man, and we hopefully did a thorough job with these annotations. So all I've done is I've collected these annotations right here at the end. But this by itself is not an outline. This is, as you might have done in high school, one of those bubble charts where you have a lot of different ideas and you put them together. This does not an outline make. So if you were to just follow all of these different ideas here, you wouldn't come up with a very good summary at all, because it goes from one thing to the next. That is not your job to create an actual outline. You need to synthesize this material, and I want to show you how to do that. So for our purposes, we can take out a lot of the annotations about rhetorical or writing strategies, and also our own ideas about possible examples, because we're looking for an outline of what Kluckhohn had to say, and then we're going to manipulate it a little bit. So let's take this out here. Don't need that. Introduction for the term culture, yes. Let's take this out. This rhetorical question. This seems to be also about the definition for culture. This was our own example about being cultured to be human, culture versus biology. So there's a lot of different terms here. Here we have, let's put all the examples together. Here's another claim. Let's bring that together. We have these examples, the rattlesnake. This we're going to take out. And then we have all these claims, and then these examples. So I like to start a summary by basically trying to have an overall thesis. What exactly is Clyde Kluckhohn trying to do? So in a sentence or two, to try to contextualize what this is. So I know that he's discussing culture and biology, so something like Kluckhohn is concerned about culture and biology. Would that work? Is that primarily what he's doing? It's not that he's concerned, so we need to be accurate even in our overall thesis, because we may want to utilize this in our summary. So Kluckhohn argues that there is an interdependence between culture and biology. Culture is informed by and informs our nature, I guess. Essentially, this is a nature versus nurture argument, something like that. Okay, so here we could say he tries to define, so the definition of what culture is. Okay, we don't want this. It seems to be a scheme, or schemes to explain human action. Okay, another way is the social legacy individuals acquire from a group. And yet a third is the anthropologists' version of culture is more expansive. It is not our idea of going to the symphony. So, yes, he starts out with a definition of culture. So, Kluckhohn attempts to define culture in a more complex way than we normally think about it. Something like that. Okay, to be human means to be cultured. We don't really need that so much. Okay, this seems to be another claim. Biology cannot explain entirely the differences among the world's people. We have another claim. So we'll see how these claims work together. Each culture acts like a blueprint for life's activities. Human behavior can be predicted if we know someone's cultural background. Okay. Biological heritage is informed by cultural training. And then let's move these up. You see how creating an outline requires a lot of actual work. You can't just say, oh, I have a whole list of annotations. How are they going to fit together? So I think this can actually go here. Each culture acts like a blueprint for life's activity, even though we all share the same biological equipment. Let's see. Does this work together? So now that I'm going through this some more, I'm starting to see that there's a pattern here. That these are still sort of disorganized. So really what I want to talk about here is that there's a biology argument, there's a culture argument, and there's an interdependence argument going on. So let's see. In terms of biology, let's move this up. Biology can't do this. Biology cannot entirely explain the differences among the peoples. Okay. Let's make these, let's call this A. Okay. And then this is also a biology argument. So let's move this up. Right here. We undergo the same life experiences. Now we have a classification pattern right here. Okay. And we'll keep this down. This goes with culture. Each culture acts like a blueprint. So this is part of the cultural argument right here. So I'm just putting the things that go together. Biology also allows for a certain potential of the species, so this is an interdependence argument. So this goes nicely up here. And nature also limits cultural forms. That's part of the interdependence argument. Biology and culture are interdependent. I think that's a better way of phrasing it than what we have. So, let's see what we have here. And we'll see if it makes sense. Kluckhohn argues that there is an interdependence between culture and biology. So we start out, Kluckhohn attempts, this is a definition argument. Kluckhohn attempts to define culture. So how does he do that? In these three ways. He focuses on biology. Biology is an important component. I like this better, actually. That's better. See, an outline takes a lot of work. You have to put these things together. Undergo the same life events. Then we have the culture argument. And then we have the interdependence. Let's see, what number is that? That's 3. Interdependence. Biology and culture are interdependent. And then 4, use of examples to illustrate the main points. Okay, what are these examples? Lots of different examples here. Let's put these in. There you go. Now you have a coherent outline. You see how much work that took? It took probably 15 minutes of time to do this once we had the annotations ready, because the Kluckhohn prompt is one of those that is a little bit complex. You could start out and say overall he's concerned about biology and culture, but where do all these arguments fit in? He's such a skilled writer that he manages to fit them in most paragraphs, and so teasing them out takes a lot of work then to do. So this becomes, I think, a really solid outline of the prompt itself that can then be used very nicely to write your summary. So I hope this helped you understand that you cannot just take annotations from something that you've read and think it's going to really work for you. The second point I would like to make about this is outlining author prompts in this way really helps your own writing, because it makes you pay attention far more to how you structure your own writing. And I know that many of you, maybe in high school, you loathed creating your own outlines and whatnot, but they really do help. They're not supposed to limit how you write, but help inform how you write. So I hope that this was helpful. Thank you.